Okay, good morning. This video is a little different. We're on the farm and unfortunately for us, we have been broken into. And in fact, this is our second attempt of recording this and I am giving Clayton very, very little time to edit this video before it goes out because I've changed my mind. The first video that we recorded was pretty much the day after I had received a letter from an animal activist group saying that they'd broken in. And at the time when we recorded, I was quite angry. As you can probably imagine, everybody's got a bit of a temper. I certainly have. And at that precise moment in time, I said everything exactly as I thought on video. I've now calmed down and I've come off the boil a little bit, and I always try and see everybody's view from each side of the fence. And although I can't understand the level of extremism, I'm going to call it, that has been taken into the hands of these activists that have been onto the farm, I perhaps was a little bit personal with the first video that we recorded because I was angry, and that's a natural thing. You know, somebody has, if I come to your house and broke into your house, I think you'd be pretty angry that you found me, whether it be in the back garden or whether it be sat at your dining table eating the strawberries that you've kept in the fridge. So I was angry. I've now calmed down and we're going to try again. So if the quality of this video is not as good as normal, that is my fault because Clayton has literally got 3-4 hours to edit this before we release. Here on the farm, we have had a letter that has come through the post, and the letter was from a group of animal activists, and the letter read along the lines of, "Hi, we've broke into your farm." Well, they didn't say that actually. "We've done an undercover investigation on your farm and we're not very happy with what we've seen," basically. Now, I'm going to get on to the legal side of it in a minute, but first and foremost, the level in which we keep our animals, the standards are very high. There is a legal level, there is governing bodies that are in place that you can be accredited for, there are higher governing bodies that you can be accredited for, and the higher the level of the accreditation with different governing bodies depends on who you work with within whatever the livestock or arable industry that you're in. Now we are here. We're not here, we're not here, we are here. So the conditions in which we keep our animals and the welfare of our animals is paramount for the time that we have them here on the farm. We look after everything as best we absolutely can. And that includes all things from housing to biosecurity to minimal stress levels on the animals while they're here or while they're coming or going. So all of them things are taken into consideration. I'll touch on in a minute. Going back a step, what gives anybody the right to break into somebody's own property or home? That is taking the law into your own hands, and in my opinion, that falls into a category of extremism. I am a meat eater. I will always eat meat. That's who I am. In fact, I don't consider it a meal unless I've got an element of meat on my plate. Some people are vegetarian, some people are vegan, some people only eat meat and they won't eat carbs. Everybody has their own opinion and their own view of what diet or belief they want to follow. And I think that's absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that. I've got lots of friends that are vegans or vegetarians, and yeah, we have a laugh and a joke and we might take the mick out of each other, but that's where it stops. That's their belief. They don't want to eat meat or dairy product or whatever it may be. They don't do it. I don't ram it down their throat that they should eat meat because it's better for you, as they don't ram it down my throat that I should eat avocados and other fruit that I don't like. So everybody to their own, and I've got no problem with that, and I've got no problem actually with anybody being passionate about their belief. I'll happily stand and have a debate or an argument with someone if need be over their own beliefs and my beliefs, but it's all our own opinions. Where I have an issue is where it gets taken to that next level, which is where I'm calling it extremism. Just because you believe in something so strongly does not, well, not you, but an activist group believe in something so strongly, it does not mean or give them the right to take the law into their own hands and break and enter and trespass. That is what's happened. Basically, we've got a gateway down the road that a car was parked in. Mark actually come across this car in the middle of the night. He was coming back to calf a cow. Luckily for me, it was actually his turn to be calving the cows, not mine that evening. He's approached, there was 2 young ladies there. He's approached these 2 young ladies and sort of asked what they were doing, and there's been a story of car sick and pulled up. As it turns out, when we look back at dates and things like that of when the video was taken, it just so happens that that was at the same time. What I think has happened, or what we can tell has happened from the video footage, is they have basically pulled up in the gateway down the road, they've crossed one of our fields which has got livestock in it, they've then jumped over another fence to get onto our unit, which that fence actually forms a perimeter of our biosecure area, where we don't want anybody on there unless they have followed all the protocols that we have to ensure that when you come onto the unit, you are clean and free from disease. So they've crossed that line, they've come onto our site, and then above and beyond that, they've then gone onto the muck midden. They have gone and opened our dead bins and recorded the animals in the dead bin, which we're a livestock farm, and all livestock farm or farmers will have to have some means of a storage facility to keep, unfortunately, fallen animals, which there are casualties on every farm. They have to keep that animal until such time that it can be collected. Then above and beyond that, they've then gone into the pig unit where the pigs are. They've walked around, they've videoed the pigs, and then after that, they have then found our spare key, which is well hidden. So there must have been a lot of time spent rooting around to find our spare key to get into the office. Now they've locked that office back up when they finished doing whatever it was that they were doing in there, which I presume would be rooting through our information to see if they could find anything that they weren't happy with. They've locked the office, they've then put the key back where they found it. So we were none the wiser that anyone had actually been on the farm that night, other than the fact that we found a car in a gateway, which was a little bit suspicious given the time and the excuse that we were given as to why they were there. But by the by, you take people at their word, and they said they felt car sick and off they went. But we didn't know, obviously, they had been on the farm. So going back to biosecurity, that is really worrying. You've seen in a previous video, we're starting to build a proper biosecure unit with a car park. Now, at the moment, we have vehicles and other visitors, whether it be vets, auditors, whether it be the company that we're working for, they come onto the farm, they park in the designated area at the moment. Before they can get on, they have to stop at the edge of that boundary that I've just mentioned that these people have crossed. They have to fully disinfect all the wheels and the underneath of the arches of the vehicles, the same as the feed wagons do when they come in and out. They'll then come onto the unit, park away in the corner. They'll then come into the farm office and then change into our overalls, our Wellington boots, and when they're fully clean and we make sure they've done the paperwork to say that they haven't been ill recently, we can then let them onto the unit. The biosecure unit that we're building now is, again, we're going back to these levels, we're talking next level again. I haven't costed it, but this thing is going to cost us in excess of 60, probably £80,000 to build this unit. And that unit will be a complete one-way system. You will come up and you will park in an area that is not even anywhere near our biosecure area. And in order to get onto that biosecure area on foot, you have to go through a one-way system by where you will have to shower after you've done your paperwork, and you come out and you'll be fully disinfected before you can go onto the unit. No thought process whatsoever, because when they have come across the field, first and foremost, they've trudged across a field that we've got cattle in. There is a bull in there. No thought process for not just my animals, but actually their own safety on that front, because if the bull had come across them, or he'd have been particularly naughty, which luckily for us, our bull is not naughty, but if he had, they could have got themselves in a whole world of trouble there. Then they've come onto the unit, and once they've come onto the unit, they then trudged round everywhere. Their Wellington boots could have been covered in shit from someone else's farm that had got disease that they'd been on a day, a night, a month before. I've got absolutely no idea. It makes a mockery of the levels that we go to make sure everything's safe. And that, to a degree, is a little bit of what this video is about, because for me, you know, we've got the law, we've got these governing bodies. It's all of them that I'm asking for a little bit of help for, because that level of extremism needs to stop. We are doing as best we can, and ultimately, you're never going to change the opinion of an entire world. There will always be some meat eaters, there will always be vegans. And that's fine. And if the vegans, there grow to be more of them because of their beliefs and their campaigns, that's absolutely fine. But the level of extremism of breaking and entering has to stop. And that's what I'm putting a call out for, is some help from not just the law, but the governing bodies as well. The police have been here, and when they were here, they have sort of come, they've taken some details, they've taken some video footage, they've taken some of our CCTV footage, and they've taken the registration number of the vehicle which we had, and they have informed us that they do class it as breaking and entering, and at some point they will be making an arrest. That is fantastic, but then there are elements on certain activist websites that almost come across like if you get arrested it goes on the leaderboard, and there's nothing really, or the repercussions are not harsh enough to deter people from doing it. The other thing that I found quite worrying and disturbing is the fact that the police have also warned us that there is an element that we have to be cautious about, which are protesters turning up, and whether it be chaining themselves to something or actually causing criminal damage. You know, we've got to be concerned about things being broken into or smashed or broken or causing trouble or looking for a reaction from us in terms of, you know, there are people out there that have been on farm and they've had an argument and it's turned into fisticuffs and somebody's got seriously hurt. Now there's a lot of them there to one number farmer, and that one number farmer got particularly hurt. That's wrong, that's worrying. And that's the other thing, you know, worrying Mark in the middle of the night with 2 people on the farm. He was here on his own, I was fast asleep. I would have never have known if anything had have happened to him. I'm not saying that they would have done anything, but if you're prepared to break and enter and trespass on someone else's property, my worries then are what level will people go to? 2 days of last week, I was away at the cereals event, so I stayed away for them 2 nights, and my wife and children were in the house on their own. I can tell you now, if I had have had that letter before the cereals event, I wouldn't have gone to that, because since then, each and every one of them are peering out the window before they go to bed, or they're not sleeping properly. I can't really sleep properly because I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and the first thing that's on my mind is there somebody wandering around my unit? Is there somebody that's going to open the gates and let the animals out or try and steal them? Is there somebody that's going to leave the gate open down the road so my livestock get off the farm? There's no thought process by these extremists, and like I say, it's not everybody, it's just the people that believe that taking the law into their own hands is the solution, and it's not. If they want to make a big impact, they should be going to the likes of the law and the governing bodies that I've mentioned, and if they believe that they're wrong, that's who they should address it with, not us as individual farmers that are then left on our own to try and deal with this. You know, we've had an immense amount of audits and the police visits, and on top of that I've now got the insurance company coming out to do a spot check to make sure that we're all safe, and it's all time that we really haven't got, because we need as much time as possible to spend looking after the animals that we have on site. So that is what needs to change, and for me the letter read, we're sorry if you find this distressing to hear and we are concerned about your welfare. I don't believe that for a minute. If you were, or if these people were, should I say, they would have written to me in the first place and said, is there any chance that we can come and have a look at your farm and how you keep the animals and the standards in which you keep them? Because I would have found that far less distressing. My wife and children would be able to sleep properly at night because they would have come at a time that we'd made an appointment if that was what we were going to do. Separately, there's a group of activists that have recently defaced the new portrait, or picture should I say, of King Charles that he's recently unveiled, and they've been in there and they've plastered Wallace and Gromit's face on it and put a speech bubble saying something to try and gather momentum for their campaign. That's wrong. They should not break into or go into a museum and break the rules and deface somebody else's property. It's all wrong. So if these people want to engage in a positive manner, as they say in their letter, then engage with the people that make the decisions. Going back to the law and these governing bodies, they're the ones that we work to a standard for. As an individual farmer, I'm going to work to the standards that I'm given in front of me, and I will always try and excel them standards and have a better site than anybody else. That's who I am. I'm competitive on that front. I want to be the best kept unit. So I can't make any difference. You turning up at my farm is not going to make any difference whatsoever. You've got to go to these governing bodies and the law and not take it into your own hands. So there is my plea. My plea is to the activists out there to please stop putting farms, farmers, animals at risk, the staff on the farm, the farmers and their families, everybody on the farm. Stop putting them at risk by breaking and entering and doing what you think is right. Approach these governing bodies. And to the peers of our farming community, the ones that have already got a big voice, I'm asking you to step up, and although you've already done mountains for the farming community, I feel like we need to do more on this front to bring this to the forefront so that laws and things are changed to make the repercussions of criminal activity far higher, to deter people from taking the law into their own hands. So there's my plea. If you like what you've seen, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and I do apologise once again. There's no montage. But I'm going to leave you with a clip from Mike Graham doing an interview with a director of one of these activist groups, which I found quite interesting, and it does show an element of the 45 farms that have been targeted, as well as the picture of King Charles. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Thank you very much. Boom.
Why did you decide to attack the new painting of King Charles?
So King Charles is the royal patron of the RSPCA. And a few days ago, we released the largest investigation into animal farming in the history of the UK. And all of the farms were RSPCA assured. And what we found was all RSPCA assured farms were factory farms, and that the RSPCA have been lying to the British public. Because if you follow...
Well, why don't you go and complain to the RSPCA?